Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast, one-stop shop for everyone feeling stuck in their career and who are looking to identify, change, and succeed at their new fulfilling work. I'm your host, Vilma. Let's go. Well, hello, beautiful people. How are you? I'm doing fabulous. I have spent the past week in a mastermind event with a room full of fellow coaches and therapists eager to serve the world. Nothing like being amongst like-minded people, high thinkers who are pushing the boundaries in this industry. And also, not gonna lie, there were moments where I was literally bawling my eyes out, witnessing other women achieving their goals while being in service and creating literally generational shifts for themselves and their families and the world in general. And there was this moment in the event one afternoon that I kind of wanted to talk to you about and share with you because that gave me some food for thought. So basically, we were giving an exercise to dream what we would do with unlimited funds. Say for some reason we had completely unlimited money, right? It was kind of like a little icebreaker visualization exercise to notice where our brain goes, possibility or limitation. And by the way, I really invite you to try this exercise too and see what you come up with. Anyway, so what was fascinating, that event, by the way, was mostly women. There were a few men, but it was mostly women. What was fascinating is that one woman after another woman stood up to share their dreams, probably 15 of them in total, and every single one of them spoke about giving back. Buying the parents a new beautiful home, getting the best medical care for the brother with MS, starting a charity. One of them was tracking one of their school teachers who made a mark on them and getting them a new car or whatever it is that they needed, and so on and so forth. Every single one of them wanted to help, to heal, and to give back. Not one of them stood up and said, hey, I would like to get an Hermes bag collection and line them up in my closet and cry with joy every time I see them. Not that there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is that is the reason why more women should be earning more money, because of the way they want to steward the money and the impact that they could create, a tangible change in human consciousness. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do with women, because once you find the best fit for a career that you're passionate about, that you feel expansive about, the money always comes. Always. Together with the impact. And I'm not singling men out, by the way. There is so much conscious and intentional, ever-growing masculine energy in the world that I'm so here for it. We love you. What I'm saying is that if you put over 100 men in the room and ask them the same question, what they would do with unlimited funds, I doubt I would have heard the same type of goals. And I know that we have some male listeners on this podcast. I hope this does not offend you, as that is definitely not the intention. This is an inclusive place. We love you, we need you, and you're fabulous. And I think this is where I'm going to stop before I talk myself into trouble and start getting angry messages about sexism. Anyway, let's talk about today's topic. To quit or not to quit your job when it's becoming blatantly obvious the job is not for you. So whether you should do that and when do you do that? Now, I touched upon this a little in episode 13. I don't have time and energy to switch, so you can definitely go back and listen to that. That was kind of like an intro into what I want to talk about today, because I received this question a lot and I've been coaching on it a lot in my private practice. So I decided to create the whole episode on it. So if you're someone who is quite literally suffering at your day job right now, and when I say literally, I mean literally, like it feels borderline impossible to drag yourself out of bed in the morning. Sometimes it's mission impossible to do that, especially towards the end of the week when you're tired. You probably snooze anywhere between 5 to 25 times. Throughout the day at work, you have extremely low energy. You probably drink copious amount of coffee. Nothing helps, by the way. Maybe in the meetings, you catch yourself completely spacing out or having this almost out-of-body experience where your insides might be shouting, what the F am I doing in here? I should not be here. right? You probably find yourself struggling to complete tasks on time. Your concentration might be low or non-existent. You sometimes spend office hours searching for travel options or travel pigs or looking for guidance on how to find your purpose. Or maybe you're even scrolling job sites looking for different positions. All of that, by the way, often results in you feeling even more depressed or even in much more lower energy. So literally takes incredible amount of willpower for you to stay at work, even if you work remotely, because actually then you have even more opportunity for distraction, right? And the only thing that you might be looking forward in these days is weekends and holidays, like you're religiously waiting for them, right? But even when they come, you can't get rid of that daunting sense of fatigue and dread of the thought of having to go back to work after the break, right? Everything just feels like an exhausting, boring marathon, right? And you're not entirely sure where you're going and why you are in this situation. If any of it sounds familiar, I've got you. You're not alone. And like I've said many times in previous episodes, all of that, everything that I mentioned and so much more, is you're experiencing symptoms, meaning there's nothing wrong with you, haven't made any mistakes. These are symptoms that you are in a completely ill-fitted career. It's not a match for you. And it takes a lot of energy always to fit in and perform in places where you're not meant to fit in and perform at. That's all there is to it, a mismatch. You're not wrong for feeling this. You haven't done anything wrong. What it is your current circumstances are creating these symptoms. And there are absolutely simple ways and strategies how to get out of this burnout purgatory. Now, when people find themselves in these situations, some of the most common prevalent thoughts that I've heard, and by the way, I used to have when I was in this situation, were something along the lines of, I can't do this any longer. I need to quit now. Or I'm quitting now. Or I don't care if I don't have anything lined up anymore. I literally just don't care. I need to leave this place yesterday. Like I am dying in here. That's how sometimes it feels like you just need to get away from this space. I feel you. Honestly, I really do. And I've probably shared how I was in similar predisposition many times in my career. Different places, different, faces, same feeling. I used to have a printed resignation letter that I had filled out without the date. And every time I would get that sense of dread, I would take it out, take my resignation letter out of the drawer, put it on my table, stare at it, have all this internal conflict and fight and be like upset. And then I put it back into the drawer and I'd continue with my day. I've lost count how many times I've gone through this ritual until it actually happened where I went to my boss's office and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. You're not going to talk me out of this. Hasta la vista. Okay, listen. So here's what I'm offering you today. Do not quit your day job just yet. I do understand it's tough to stay there, but hear me out. There are very solid reasons why you should stay there for a bit longer and ways how you can improve your experience at your current job, believe it or not. And I'll be sharing that with you today. But before I go into it, I have a bit of a disclaimer as per usual. What I'll be sharing with you today does not apply to you if you are actually experiencing psychological harm, discrimination, various misconducts that are severely affecting your mental, emotional, and perhaps even physical health at your workplace. If you are in these spaces where you're not being compensated for your work, then please do whatever it takes to remove yourself from these circumstances. It's not worth it, and you can definitely figure things out, okay? So this episode does not apply to you if you are in these more severe circumstances, okay? However, if you're not in these circumstances and you're simply hating your job, but you're being treated respectfully, this one is definitely for you. So if you're there feeling really misaligned, suffering, you may think, you know what? Maybe I'll just quit. Maybe I'll just bite the bullet and leave. Because at least then I'll have this whole time and space to myself, to soul search, to introspect, to apply for things, to start a business, right? Because right now I'm literally losing my sanity at this position. I can't do this anymore. Wrong. If you quit right now, here's what's likely to happen. Yes, okay, at first you'll quit and you will have that breath of massive relief of not having to go to the dreaded place anymore or see the face of your boss. And you'll be in this like more exalted state of freedom, right? And it may even last for a few days or a few weeks in some instances, not longer, not in my experience. And here's what will happen after. The survival monster will enter the room. What I'm referring to is that overwhelming, paralyzing fear of what now? Of I do have some savings, but what if it will take me forever to get a new job or build a business? The thoughts of, have I made a mistake? Thoughts of, oh my God, I'm receiving these bills. I only have the money coming out and no money coming in. That's right. This fear of being put in dangerous places, whether physically, mentally, or in this case, financially, is primal. It's mostly an automatic response. And while we can no doubt manage it, the survival monster is one of the strongest of them all. It's gonna come knocking on your doors much sooner than you think, right? Remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have those 5 layers of needs, starting from the bottom up where we have physiological needs, then safety needs and love and belonging, esteem needs, and then self-actualization at the top of the pyramid. If you are here, right, you are someone who is after self-actualization. If you're listening to this podcast, you're looking for meaningful work in your life. However, as you know, a person can only move on to addressing their higher level of needs like self-actualization only when they've met the basic needs. And those basic needs are adequately fulfilled. So if you look at that bottom of Maslow's pyramid, we see the 2 lower layer needs, physiological needs and safety needs, right? The first one being the most basic survival needs, food, water, rest, clothing, shelter, health, right? And then we have safety needs, which is health and financial safety, safety from violence, and so on and so forth. These are the prerequisite for us to get anywhere near to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is fulfillment and self-actualization. And you can't, unfortunately, skip layers. So in that scenario, you may think you will have all of this time and space and energy to explore if you quit right now. But honestly, consciously or subconsciously, you will be experiencing mild to high levels of anxiety because your survival will be threatened. Your both foundational layers, physiological and safety needs, will not be met. And that means you won't be able to access that creative, inspired energy. That's also, by the way, the reason why I crafted my process the way that I did. I can't start the first session jumping into purpose. I would be doing a disservice to everyone who comes into my container because we need to work our way towards it. First, we start with ensuring that you feel safe, that you have some sort of financial stability, ideally a job. We then move into the 3rd layer of Maslow's, love and belonging. I check whether you have support system to help you through the change. Then we go up towards the self-esteem needs, which is mostly to do with your confidence, how you perceive yourself, how you think others perceive you. That's when we do some thought work. We change limiting beliefs, right? To ensure that we build a strong center and a supportive relationship with yourself. And only then we arrived at the top level of self-actualization, where when you feel relatively safe, supported by others and yourself, and you can tame your inner gremlins, that's when we quickly arrive at the right career path. And if someone wants to start the process, when they just surviving or stuck at level 1 and 2, often the work becomes super challenging and sometimes even completely fruitless, because we need to spend the time stabilizing their inner world before we can move on to career plans. So all to say that I would not advise you quitting your job just yet. And if you've been listening to my podcast, you already know that I'm an advocate of a gradual shift if possible. That is, you stay in your current position until you have clarity on where you're moving. In other words, you've done the work, you know exactly which industrial role you'll be transitioning into, or you know what sort of business you'll be building, right? And in these situations, your business should already be set up and generating consistent income. Or if you're switching companies, you already should have an offer on the table. That's when you quit. Okay? The only exception that sometimes I advise people to make is if there's absolutely no way, like maybe there is a conflict that they cannot stay in the current position. Sometimes they will be seeking for what we call transition positions or transition jobs, ideally within the same company, so you're familiar with the culture, so it's not much of a switch and it's not too overwhelming, right? And ideally, it's something closer to your blueprint, closer to the direction into which you're planning to transition into anyway. But even that is more of an exception to the rule than the rule, right? Another big reason why I'm offering you to stay for a bit longer is because you simply never want to quit situations out of anger, out of unhappiness, or frustration, right? And that, by the way, does not only apply to work situations. It could be applicable to relationships too. I'm inviting you to only leave situations once you arrive at that point of neutrality, clarity, and integration. When you're not stuck in those reactive cycles that you might be stuck in right now, when you're not overwhelmed by emotions and turmoil, you want to stay, process, and make decisions from that calm, grounded space, because that's when you can see what's what. That's when the smoke clears and you're not blinded by emotions caused by triggers around you, right? Triggers are your friends, by the way. You know that already, probably, but I will talk about it a bit later, right? Also, when you're feeling low, remember, guess what thoughts you will be attracting to you? Negative, low quality thoughts. There's not going to be possibility, no creativity, no opportunity in your head. Things will look dark, right? And you won't even be open to explore a different path. That's why we need you out of that mental space. And quitting the job is not going to help you to get to the right space. It might even make it worse for you, right? Okay, so what do you do if you can't leave your day job yet? Simple. You figure out how to stay. End of the episode. Good luck. Joking. No. While you figure out the next aligned career move, you learn how to stay at the current position. And that is much, much easier and simpler than you might currently think. Your ability to stay at this work and perhaps even find some light and meaning in what you currently do is a few perspective shifts away. That's all it is. If you ask me, every little thing comes back to the inner work, but in this case, it's particularly true. If you can't change your outer circumstances, you then can focus on changing how you think about these circumstances, meaning your work. How you think about your work will determine how you feel about your work, and how you feel about your work will determine what you do and don't do. And don't you worry, I'm not going to tell you to be grateful for your job you have, right? Because some people may not even have a job, or whatever sort of shaming dialogue sometimes we have. Because when we are suffering, that doesn't usually work. The first thing that I will actually suggest you to do is have a meeting with yourself for this work that I'm going to introduce to you now. Peace out, time yourself out, find a quiet space, maybe do this over the weekend or use a part of your vacation, right? Just dedicate this time to talk to yourself and change the current narrative, which is honestly making you sick and tired, and spend that time switching it around with a more helpful story. And I promise it's so worth it. What I'm going to share next, I strongly advise, by the way, to do it on paper. I want your eyes to see the content that is coming out of your brain. This is allow you to separate from it, create distance. And if you do this, you're going to find some golden nuggets. Trust me, you will earn your aha moments like that. Okay? So, firstly, all emotions aside, knowing that this is not the career or job that you will stay for much longer. You know that. You don't have to fight it. It's a decision you already made. It's an ill-fitting career or position. Knowing that you are in the process of finding a better fitting and more meaningful career for yourself, right? That's true for you too. You're looking for ways. You're listening to this podcast. You're in the process of finding a better path for yourself. When we remove all of those emotions aside, let's look at now your current position and let's look at all the ways in which this current job is serving you. I know you may resist it at first, but work with me here. And I want you to get as specific as you can. If you need, you pause the episode and write those out, right? What are the reasons and what are all the ways in which your job is currently serving you? List them out in detail. I'm going to share a few suggestions or a few examples for you. So, for instance, let's start with the obvious. Whatever your pay is right now, right? It's paying your bills. It's putting food on your table. It's paying for the home that you have, right? The first two Maslow's levels, your job is currently covering them. Even if you think you're not getting paid enough, you deserve more. I get it. I agree with you. Whatever the dialogue is, let's put that aside. Fact is, you're getting paid, and because of that, you can afford your current lifestyle. It's keeping the survival monster at bay. You always want to keep the survival monster away, okay? Secondly, no matter how disillusioned and disconnected you feel from your current job, this job has actually taught you and probably might still be teaching you some valuable skills. And I know your brain will want to question this and maybe say something like, well, I don't know if I can use the skill set moving forward. You know what? Chances are you will. No matter how specific you think these skills are, right? I always say that at least 70% of your skills are perfectly transferable. I promise. Even if you are, like entry-level job like cashier at McDonald's. Hey, you have communication skills, you work well under pressure, you're good at multitasking, and the list goes on. Not there's anything wrong, by the way, in having this job. This is just one example to remind you that you probably are extremely undervaluing the skill set that you gained throughout however many years that you've been employed, right? You are learning or have learned valuable life and work skills thanks to your job. Okay? Another reason why it's serving you. You probably have at least one or two colleagues, at least, that have become a close friend of yours. We are social animals who need connection to other social animals, right? That's the third layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that's the 3 levels already met. Right? Love and belonging. Your job is meeting not only the 2 lower needs, it's probably even meeting the 3rd one, right? It's making space for you to move closer to self-actualization. That's what your job is doing for you right now. And let's continue adding to this list, and let's think of all the reasons of how and why this current job you're very dissatisfied with is also helping you to transition in your career. So, for instance, you know that very well. When you're employed, you feel more or less secure. When you apply for other jobs, you're not graspy, you're more confident, you're coming from a completely different energy of sufficiency. You're simply seeking for a good fit versus operating from urgency and grabbing whatever it is available, right? You can leverage your current position in shopping around for other opportunities. The minute you quit, that's gone. You're back into the graspy, help me, hire me energy. Another piece, as a career changer, you will be working your network and you will want to spend some time reconnecting with your old friends, acquaintances, reaching out to new people who perhaps you admire, or you want to get to know, the behind the scenes of their career. You will need time for that. It's not going to happen overnight. Your network is where a lot of opportunities and suggestions will come from. And by the way, reconnecting, reaching out to people doesn't have to be scary or awkward or weird. like some of you think. There are definitely ways to do that, and I'm sure I have covered it somewhere in this podcast. And if not, let me know, and I'll gladly do an episode about that. Again, if you're out of the job, you don't have the job, trust me, reconnecting with a university friend you haven't spoken to for like 15 years will be the last on your to-do list. They will be the last of your worries. Also, your current job provides you with space to go deep and introspect. Who actually are you? At your core, what is your unique blueprint? What do you care about? What feels to you more like play than work? Basically, all that I talk about in this podcast or walk people through in my process, you will have time and space for that while you are employed because you're not stressed out. It's priceless, and doing this work can quite literally, without exaggeration, change the course of your life. Another one to add to that, I'm getting excited. I have one more reason why you should stay. Your current job will again provide you shelter for you as you start building a new path for yourself. Because whether you'll be studying for something new, whether you'll be hiring help, whether you'll be building a business, whatever it is, you will need all kinds of resources for that, including financial. Your current job will fund your new career. As simple as that. And I think these are all fantastic reasons to at least start shifting your mindset to more neutrality. Your turn now. Okay? How else is this job serving you right now? Really, I really invite you to go there, explore, ask your brain for more and more evidence and write it all out. This will become your new Bible for the coming months as you prepare for your transition. And I also know that some of you will find this exercise tedious, boring, or like a lot of work, right? Or I don't have time to do this. I know how the brain works. And this may seem a little too intangible unless you try it and experience the shift that it can create for you. Why do you want to reframe if your job seems objectively shit? Right? Some of my clients often tell me like, Vilma, but you don't get it. My job is awful. My boss is unreasonable. Everyone thinks it's a shit place to be. It's not just me. And my response is always the same. I'm not asking you to fall in love with your job. I'm not asking you to settle. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm not even arguing or questioning what you're telling me. Your job is probably horrible and is probably an awful work culture. And you're most likely 100% right about everything you're telling me. What I'm asking you is if that sort of thinking and constant venting and spinning in the same dialogue serving you? Does it inspire you to get up in the morning and think how much you don't want to leave your bed? Does it serve you to take everything personally and get annoyed every 10 minutes at the office? If it's not, then work on changing the story you tell yourself. And then these circumstances, in other words, your job, is going to annoy you less. And then it's annoying less. You're in a much better position to find an aligned alternative. Because right now what's happening, you're feeding your resentment, your frustration, and demotivation. Because all of these emotions, they need energy to survive. You are directing your energy, giving them your life force that could actually be spent on building your new future. And once you reframe it, once you answer those questions that I'm sharing with you here, these emotions that you're feeling right now will start shifting, changing, and they'll start going into more even space. Et voila! You reclaim so much of that energy that you can now direct at building a universe, a new universe for yourself. That's why it's worth your time, right? Now, to add to that, I want to offer you another angle on why you should stay for a little bit longer. Something that I coach on quite a lot, by the way, in my practice is the emotional and spiritual angle. If you believe that things in life happen for a reason, if you believe that you are in places where you're supposed to be at all times, then what if this job is the place for you to be right now? What if you believed that you are there for a reason? How would you feel? What would you feel that the only reason you haven't left or you couldn't leave yet is because there is still something for you to learn and take on and integrate in that space? And I often refer, by the way, to our job purgatory as bunny slopes, meaning it's training and prepping phase before we can move on to embodying our light and living on and in purpose. We need that phase. This phase is so important. Please don't underestimate it. It's happening for you. Because if someone magically, waved the magic wand and transported you now from where you are to a career that you love, with all your current habits, patterns, and mechanisms, guess what? You probably wouldn't last even if you loved what you do. Because as you've heard many times, passion for work is not always enough. And it's not just about loving what you do. It's also about knowing how to work sustainably. Think about your current position right now. Are there any things at your current workplace that annoy you? Are there people that trigger you? Is there anything that invokes a strong emotion within you? If so, if you find them, if you just listed them in your head, note them down. You know what they are? Your teachers that have served you with some work that you need to do on you. Your strong reaction, and again, I'm talking strong reaction here that seems overwhelming, or you find yourself going over and over and over in your head about it. That reaction has little to do with another person or situation and mostly to do with your inner content that has been activated within you, hence the reaction. So your job, while you are at this job, is to slow down and get curious. Why am I reacting like that? Did they really mean it like that? Question it. Where am I assuming? Where am I not listening? Why do I feel hurt? Why do I feel threatened? Why did I take it personally? Because if you don't take this time to address this now and unpack this now, this will 100% pop up on your new path. So why wouldn't you view this current job environment as a healing school that will provide you with those triggers so you could see what needs to be addressed? If you don't have triggers, you don't know what needs to be addressed. What if you opened up more and got interested versus reacted to it? How much more could you learn about yourself and your patterns? How much more equipped would you be then to enter the next purpose-aligned phase of your life? Right? Like, ask yourself these questions. Notice, get curious. Don't judge yourself. Don't jump into reaction. Study yourself. Study this environment. Take it for what it is. Trust me, that will create such a different experience at work for you. Another question is, what is your relationship with work in general right now? Do you always show up on time? Do you finish assigned tasks on time? Are you proactive? Are you collaborative? Are you helpful? It doesn't even matter you're not in love with your job. You can still train the muscle of showing up and delivering value wherever you go. You know why? Because that will leave you a different person. That will change your self-concept by you providing value, you being that person who shows up, you being that person who gives suggestion to the team. You will be taking all of this new self-concept to the new perfect career that you're building. Because you do not want to arrive at a fulfilling career with lack of awareness and bad procrastination habits. So what better place to practice your new self-concept than your job? And this is why, by the way, particularly true for those of you who are thinking of transitioning into owning a business. What if you considered your place of employment or your boss as your client? Right? How would you deliver or over-deliver to your client? How can you ensure those repeat purchases? Just imagine how differently you'd show up then and how much more fun you'd have. Trust me, that kind of thinking is energy-inducing, not the other way around. Another question and thought for you. What impact and legacy can you leave behind? Even if they don't know you're plotting an exit, you can still plan to make an impact, to help out, to introduce the change. Why wouldn't you? Wouldn't you do that for your client? And I really know that some of you feel a little bit resistant hearing those questions. The reason why I'm sharing these prompts is because I'm inviting you to learn the most powerful skill you can master in this life. Your ability to reframe life situations by choosing a different perspective. And I'm sharing this, by the way, not to advocate for you to stay in horrible places. I'm offering you a short-term solution. Least resistance solution. Stay for a little bit of longer. Use that to extend the timeline so you can transition only when you have clarity on where you're going and ideally have a job offer or again a business that is producing income. That's when you leave. Be smart, be strategic, feel the emotions, but don't allow them to take over and threaten your financial well-being. Don't let that inner teenager have a field trip here, okay? Comfort her, comfort him, and then explain how this situation serves you. Decide that this situation serves you. You have an ability to make a decision. Wherever you are is exactly where you have to be. There's something there for you. Once you drop that resistance, you learn the lessons, you can move on to the next level. It happens so many times. I've seen it for myself and my clients. It's kind of like the computer game. Once you solve and complete one level, you move on to the next one, to the more advanced one. That's all that's happening to you. You're in one level. And you're not going to get to the next level by being upset and venting and complaining. Right? And let me know how you get on with this. I really want to hear your stories. I really want to hear where you guys are at. You can find me on Instagram. If you're not following me, why are you not following me? I post amazing nature pictures. I'm like the best nature stalker, you guys. Along with some career change insights and tips. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is my name.surname, which is vilma.usaite, Usaite. And if you'd like to join my waiting list to work with me one-on-one and have me guide you step by step through the whole career change process, starting from I have no idea what I want to do, all the way to having clarity and direction for your aligned, purpose-led career path, and having the transition plan in detail of how you can execute on that. If that's something that you'd like some help with, make sure you go to the show notes down below. There is a consultation link that you need to click on and schedule your call. Okay, now take all of this material, go to work, reframe your situation, and make some sexy lemonade from those day job lemons. Have a good week, everyone. Bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy my content, please rate it and leave a little comment. That will help me spread the word about holistic career change and hopefully inspire someone to transition to their own purpose-led career. Thank you.